Every night before you fall asleep, you go somewhere else. Not in a dream, not yet. In something more deliberate than that. You construct a scenario, a conversation that never happened, a version of yourself that said the right thing, a life that went differently, a moment you have replayed so many times it has its own internal logic, its own recurring cast of characters, its own rules about what is allowed to happen. You lie in the dark and you build. And you have probably never told anyone about it. This is more common than almost anyone realizes. And the reason it happens reveals something fundamental about how your brain is actually built. Psychologists call it maladaptive daydreaming when it becomes consuming, a term coined by researcher Eliezer Somer at the University of Haifa in the early 2000s. But the lighter, universal version of this, the nightly mental cinema most people run before sleep, is something different. Something older. Something that your brain does not do by accident. Your brain is a simulation engine. It does not stop when your body lies down. It shifts into a different kind of processing. And the scenarios you build in that threshold space between wakefulness and sleep are not a bug in your cognitive system. They are one of its most sophisticated features. The threshold you enter just before sleep has a name. Researchers call it the hypnagogic state, the zone of consciousness between full wakefulness and actual sleep. During this period, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, judgment, and self-monitoring, begins to disengage. Inhibitions lower. The internal critic goes quiet. And in that space of loosened control, your imagination expands. You can be anyone. You can rewrite anything. The rules of social consequence that govern your waking life lift entirely. This is why the scenarios you build at night feel so much more emotionally vivid and so much more honest than the ones you allow yourself during the day. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker's research on the sleeping brain reveals that the period just before sleep serves an important emotional regulatory function. Your brain uses this liminal space to process the emotional residue of the day, to rehearse, to repair, to simulate outcomes it cannot test in waking life. The fake scenarios you build are not escapism in the pejorative sense. They are your nervous system doing emotional homework. The conversation where you finally said what you meant, the version of events where things went right, the life you are still deciding whether to want. Your brain is not wasting time. It is running simulations it cannot afford to run while you are awake. This connects to something psychologists call mental simulation, the brain's ability to model hypothetical situations in enough detail to extract real emotional and cognitive information from them. Researcher Gabriele Oettingen at New York University has spent decades studying what happens when people mentally simulate positive futures. Her research reveals something counterintuitive. Simply imagining a desired outcome in vivid detail does not make it more likely to happen, but it does produce a measurable emotional response, a real neurological state that your brain begins to treat as partially real. The fake scenario generates genuine emotion, and that emotion becomes data. There is also the question of what these scenarios are actually about. Look carefully at the ones you build most often. They almost always involve one of three things. Control, a situation in which you had the power that waking life denied you. Repair, a relationship, a conversation, a moment you wish had gone differently. Or desire, a version of your life that you have not yet allowed yourself to admit you want. The content of your pre-sleep cinema is not random. It is your subconscious filing system telling you exactly what remains unresolved. The scenarios that keep returning, the ones with the most emotional charge, are the ones your waking mind has been unable to fully process. They are not distractions from your real feelings. They are the most direct access point to them. Psychologist Jerome Singer, who spent decades studying the inner lives of habitual daydreamers, found that fantasy and imagination are not escapes from reality, they are practice for it. People who engage regularly in rich, detailed mental simulation tend to have stronger emotional regulation, better ability to empathize, more developed capacity for creative problem solving. The person lying in the dark, building an elaborate alternative conversation with someone who hurt them 6 years ago, is not avoiding their feelings. They are processing them in the only space that feels safe enough to do so. This is why you have never told anyone. Not because it is shameful, but because the scenarios belong to a part of you that you keep private by instinct. The part that knows exactly what you want and exactly what hurts and has no interest in being evaluated by anyone else. Every night before you fall asleep, you go somewhere else. The same somewhere. Often. The same faces. The same unfinished conversations. The same alternate version of something that happened. You have probably wondered what it means that you keep going back. It means your brain is still working on it. It means something there is not yet resolved. And it means your mind, in its most honest and unguarded state, is still trying to find a way to make it right.